going to take a minute and kind of go over where I'm at with the wing. I didn't really shoot a lot of individual processes like I would have on other parts of the aircraft. Mainly just I wanted to get in here and build, and I thought, well, let me build the left wing, and maybe on the right wing I might show some more detail. I haven't decided that yet, but in any case, I'll just do a walkthrough on what I've got to this stage here. So first of all, I want to show you, I've got the landing light in and I've got it turned on. I've got all my wiring all through, all the way out to here. And the reason for having it on is I wanted to verify that, I did the math on 18 gauge wire for that, and it said it was going to be fine. Volt drop was going to be okay at the current it's pulling. But I wanted to do a test. So I've got my benchtop power supply here. I'm at 13.8 volts. It's currently pulling about 2.5 amps, 35 watts. And at 13.8 here, when I come out to the tip and I measure my voltage at the light, I was about 13.2. So it's a little over a half volt drop. That's fine. This light's good down to 9 volts, they say. Although in reality, I found that you probably don't want to go below about 10 because it starts to diminish in intensity. In any case, the 18 gauge wire, power wire for that's fine. I am running a 20 gauge wire for the sync line for wigwag to the other wing. But what I did is I used these Deutsch style connectors. These guys here, these are automotive style weatherproof connectors. Come with these really like aviation style pins, the barrel type here. You have to have the special crimper for it, which I have here. And got the connectors there for that. I've kind of sketched up a wiring diagram, all my pins. I'm gonna go in the computer and actually turn this into a proper diagram. But what I did was ran all my wires out there. I used 1/2-inch PEX, which if you have to take a step drill and open these holes up in the ribs. I used it was a 20 or 16 millimeter, I think. Anyways, it was just enough to get the PEX to clear through the ribs instead of using the grommets. I just like the idea of having a conduit. I've seen other builders do this, and I really like that idea. It was cheap. It was $4 for this section of PEX here. Come in a 10-foot section. I think I used, 7 or 8 feet or something. Able to run all my wires through there. I did use the grommets that they supply. I just stretched it over the PEX on the ends just to keep the PEX from migrating left or right. So I've got those at both ends there. Ran my wire in there. I put this braided split loom as it exits on both ends, and just to protect it there, got it tied up with some little fasteners, little stick-on fasteners here and zip ties. This will be to my wingtip, strobe, and nav light. And this is one of the wires to my my other landing light. I got to run another power wire for it. I haven't decided if I'm going to do the two. Obviously, I'm doing the RAN's Aero LED light here, but I may also do the one that comes with the Aerosport wingtip. We'll see. I might just start off with this, add that later. But if I want to add it later, this will be right there inside. I'll put a connector on it, and it'll be just a matter of plugging it in. So easy change later with the wiring already run. I didn't use the framework as a ground. That's how it is in my Cessna. I don't know. I can always do that if I want to just tap into this wire, run a little ground lead over to a piece of the structure, and catch the ground in the airframe or something. But I thought, I'll just run all the wires. That way, if for some reason I want to have a ground, it's there. So that's what I ended up doing there. Got my aileron pulley assembly bolted in here, safety wired. Got the safety wire on the little ferrule that they crimp onto the cable, so that's all good. Got the flap bell crank and Teflex cable all in place here. That all is fine. I didn't use that corrugated, serrated, I guess, split loom for these here. I couldn't get it to stay on without gluing it, and then I thought it was just probably going to come off. So I just used my neoprene foam tape and just surrounded there just for wire protection. And it probably doesn't matter because when this comes through the wing here, this will all be wrapped in the split loom braid, and then I'll wrap up the connector at the end like I did here with the fabric tape right there. So anyways, it's all protected. Next step is probably getting ready for wing skin. There is one thing I'm going to do, and I'll probably show this in a subsequent clip. I want to be able to mount a GoPro on the tie down ring here. So I'm going to machine a piece that'll fit onto this, that I can put a GoPro out here on the wing. But I want to be able to power the GoPro and control the GoPro without having to just use the battery. You know, it only lasts 45 minutes or an hour or whatever. I'm going to put a panel mount USB-C port somewhere right in here, flush mounted on the skin. So there'll be a little USB-C port right there, and then I can just do a short little USB cable from the GoPro to that port, and that'll run all the way down, and I'll run it into the cockpit, where you may have seen in my panel video, I have a button here that is a cam record button, and it's an illuminated button. So when I push it, it'll light up, it'll trigger the cameras, they'll all just start recording at the same time. And I'll either have it on or flashing while it's recording so I know it's on, and then I can just toggle that off. So that's a circuit that I'm going to work on at a later date, but I need to get the wiring in here to make that possible. So that's something I'm going to add in. That's pretty much it. So just a quick little walkthrough showing where I'm at with the wings. Got the skin put on the wing here. I did lay the stringers in their spots. Be careful when you cut the stringers. You do have to cut them. They're too long as they are. Make sure you cut from the correct end so that you don't end up with a situation where you're off on the holes. It'll be apparent. What I did is I just laid the stringers on the skin when I had the skin on the workbench. I just laid them on there and saw where the holes lined up and saw where I needed, which end I needed to cut the stringers from. So just check that. But I do have the stringers in there. I have this sitting up here. I'm going to go ahead and Cleco every few holes on the stringers, because the manual calls for riveting the stringers to the skin right now. All right, I got all the stringers riveted to the skin, and now I need to Cleco the skin to the ribs, because the manual now calls for after Clecoing the skin to the ribs, coming in here and match drilling for the front row here on the skin. Got everything Clecoed up, and now I'll pull this skin down and drill it, match drill it here. And I gotta say, I'm pretty impressed with Rand's on this. With the extrusion, the little lip there, when you pull this skin down, I mean, it matches up within, I should put a feeler gauge in there and see, but it looks like maybe 20 thousandths of an inch in some places, down to less than 5 in others. That's all probably less than 5 thousandths. And then it kind of opens up a little, but really good tolerances there. I'm going to match drill through the holes here on the front edge of the skin. Manual says to do it as a 30. I'm going to go ahead and just do it with a 40, and I can come back through later and open them up to 30s. It's probably a little overkill to be Clecoing every single one, but hey, I've got them. I'll just take the time and do it. That way I know the skin is really sitting there and not moving. gonna go ahead and get the skin of the holes here dimpled. And by the way, I'm doing something different than the manual when it comes to dimpling these and preparing these for the flush rivets. Josh at Project 2 Arrow and I were messaging over the summer about this, and he had an idea, which he ended up doing, which is using a special dimple die. It's for 1/8" rivets, but it's got a number 40. It's made for a number 40 hole, and you dimple it, and then come back in and open it up to number 30 after it's been dimpled. And I like that idea. He did it. He had good results with it, so I went ahead and decided to do the same. So what that means is, and that's why I only drilled these out to number 30 originally, because I didn't want to, number 40, I didn't want to open these up. So now that I've got these dimpled, I'm going to go ahead and open these all up on the spar, and then I can come in with a micro stop and get those countersunk. But as far as this dimple die tool goes, I think I got it at Aircraft Tool Supply, if I remember correctly. It was cheap, but it is a dimple die set made specifically for Q rivets, which is what we use, and with number 40 holes. So, FYI. Got the first few holes done here with the micro stop. I kind of went into it easy on the first one, little by little, until I found a depth that I thought worked, and then did a couple. And then I did find I needed to turn it in just a little more. Thing I wanted to do here was just go in on it easy. If I need to come back and take a little bit more off, I can. If I go too much, can't put it back. So I pretty much got it set where I feel is a good depth. I get good contact here. And as I come inside, of course, I'm not gonna be able to really show you here, but I put it down there, and if I don't see a gap right there, then I know I've got the right height. So pretty much like what I'm seeing here. I'm gonna go ahead and work my way down. What I'm doing as I go along here and drill this is I'm taking one of these cable pulley retainer things from the kit, which happen to be, I believe, the same thickness as the skin, or very close to. And I'm just holding it behind the hole about like so, just to provide the same, give up the difference here, get rid of the gap, I guess I should say, from the extrusion here having this little lip. So I come in right here, and then I go ahead and micro stop that way. I'll show it here in the next clip. So I'll come in here like so. I'll set that little piece as a shim right there. And I'll bring my micro stop in. And there we go. Point being, it's just gonna help keep it perpendicular to this surface right here. Got this all finished up all the way down, good to go there. Next, the manual is saying to cleco in the fuel tank supports. There's 4 of them, one here, 2, 3, and 4. Come to the point that it's time to start riveting the top skin onto the wing, and the manual says to start with the leading edge. Do that row and then work your way back row by row all the way back, and leave the last 4 out, because that's where you're going to be working on the trailing edge or the aft spar and the gap seals and whatnot. So this is one of those steps where I'm apprehensive to do this, but it's probably just like when I did the tail cone. Once I closed it up, once you start, then it's fine. It's just taking that first initial step and knocking out the first few rivets, because then you're committed. And I'm hoping that I got all these micro stop drilled the right way. I've got this dimpled correctly. Everything looks okay. When I hold it down, it all seems to be pretty good and flush. I probably, if there's going to be any trouble with this, it's in how I formed the leading edge. It's how I formed the front edge of the top skin. You know how you want to kind of bend it over, and I might not have given it enough. I feel like it probably should have had a little more. We'll see what I end up with. I can say one thing, the right wing is going to definitely end up nicer than the left wing, as is typical when you have two of something. The first one around is never as good as the second, it seems. But, well, I guess I'll go ahead and get started, and I'll start riveting this front edge here. All right, there we go. All the leading edge rivets are complete. It wasn't as scary as I thought it would be. Well, like I said, it was until I got about the first 10 done, and then I was committed. So at that point, then you're just going. Did not have one failed rivet. Everything pulled just fine. And no buckling anywhere. Maybe a couple little areas where it might be lifted up. I don't know, 5 or 8 thousandths of an inch. Nothing serious. Like nobody's ever gonna know but me. Hey, another thing I did before I riveted this down, I took some 320 sandpaper and I rounded, basically kind of radius the top edge of the skin and the bottom edge. Just a little bit. We're only talking a few thousandths, but it's just enough that if you did have a little bit of a high spot, you're not gonna catch a sharp edge. And also I radiused the bottom so that when it came up against the extrusion, if it was real tight, it was kind of radiused at that little corner right there. And that seems to have given me a pretty nice edge. Really happy with it. I was super concerned that it wasn't gonna turn out very nice, but wow. I think it's probably pretty hard to screw this up. It seems like one of those type of tasks that you have to be super careful and extra precise, but I kind of find that, I don't know, if you just do it, if you just take a little bit of time, it just turns out. So that's my thought. Okay, I've got all the rivets in all the way back except for the last 4 rows, and everything went fine. I didn't get, well, I think I have one rivet that kind of went at an angle, and I'll have to replace that, but every other rivet was fine. Started, at the front and just worked my way back row by row. And I don't have any buckling anywhere. I did notice that as I started to come back, the holes were off just a little. You can see they're off just a little bit. And I just took a chucking reamer, and I just kind of cleared out that little bit. It's probably 20 thousandths worth, and that let the skin sit flat all the way down. So I guess next is I need to start working on these gap seals here, and I got to trim off the ends on both ends, on both pieces, and then start getting them in here and fit up. I've done this a few different ways with the elevator, rudder, and so on. And I found this to be the easiest way, which I'll show. I just take a straight edge and I scribe a line where I want to cut with my little scratch awl. And Then I just use these shears right on that line. It gives me a nice clean cut. I've already done this side down here. And the only thing I need to do is just take a file and just clean up that edge a little bit. All right, I got that done, all trimmed up. This isn't something the manual said to do, it's just something I'm doing. I just cut a little radius into that corner bend right there, just to prevent the potential for a crack at a later date. Anytime you got a bend there, if you can, I kind of like to put a little radius in there. I did it at both ends. I've got one there as well. This piece is complete. I need to do the same thing on this guy. All right, I got the gap seal pieces put in here. They go up underneath the top skin right there. I've got them clecoed every couple holes along the bottom. And just taking a straight edge here, and I'm just looking for a parallel gap right there. There you go. Just want that gap to be parallel, and that can be adjusted however you move the skin, right? So you want to find it where it's parallel, which is about right there. Oops, make sure I'm up here. So that's about it right there. Might need to come back just a little. Something like so. And then I would match drill and cleco. I wouldn't start at the end. The manual calls for starting in the middle and working your way out to each end. So what I'm going to do is I guess I'll start doing that. They say to drill to a number 30. I just like, on things like this, sticking with a number 40. It's a number 40 sized hole here. I like just sticking with a 40. I'll cleco with the number 40 clecos. And once I know once I get it and I know it's good, then I like to drill up to a 3.1 or a 3.2 millimeter drill bit, which is just the size of the rivet. I forget which it is. I think it's 3.2, 3.1. I'll have to measure. Instead of using a number 30, it just gets you a nice tight fit in the rivet. Not too tight, but no slop either. So I'll probably go ahead and do that. I did a lot of that when I was doing the ailerons and flaps. I really liked how that turned out. But so far so good. Oh, I did temporarily put the inboard rib in. Just because when I came up here with my straight edge, I wanted to make sure that I had a good reference for the top airfoil shape here for right here. And I got to tell you, that is not easy to get in, because you've got these tank supports and the flange of the rib has to slip in between the tank support and the top skin. And I fought it for about 20 minutes getting this thing in here. It would have been a lot easier had I left these rivets out. So not only obviously you can't rivet where this inboard rib is, because that doesn't go in until after the fuel tank's in. But I feel like I probably should have left these rivets out, and it would have let me kind of lift that skin up a little more to get that in. I feel like these could probably be riveted at any time later. On the right wing, I'm going to try that and see if it makes things easier. But anyhow, overall pretty good. There's no pillowing or bumps anywhere. It's all pretty tight. You know, with these wing skins being 20,000ths, they're thin, and they do show a little more than, you know, the wing skins on my Cessna. I think are, well, they're probably 25 or maybe 32. I'll have to measure and see. I think they might be 32. The point being, on the thin skins, they really just show any, you know, where the rivets are, where the ribs are, you see it. It's more pronounced than if the skins were thicker. You know, by the time you get paint and everything on, I don't suppose that matters, but it does have a little bit more of some unevenness, I guess you would say, than what I typically would see in a thicker skinned wing. This is a case where, I think I've mentioned this before, Like, I totally wouldn't have minded if these were 25,000 skins for the wing skins. You know, so what if the wing weighed 4 pounds more? I don't even think it would be that much, to be honest with you. Maybe it would, but like, I would totally be okay with a heavier wing by several pounds even, if it meant I had thicker skins, but it is what it is. All right, let me get going on these gap seals. What I'm finding helpful is this little piece that I cut off from the end of this gap seal down there at the root. It's the same thickness as the skin here, 20 thousandths, and just take this and hold it right up against the edge there, and then when I take my straight edge, if I flush it out right there, then I know I'm parallel. Set it up like that, hit it with the drill, and boom, you're done. So there you go. That's good little use of this piece of scrap here. So now that the gap seals have been completed, I'm going to go ahead, well, I had taken them off, and I'm going to go ahead and deburr everything. And for that, I'm just going to use some 320 sandpaper. I'm going to get in here, the bottom side of the skin, top side of the skin, and both surfaces of the aft spar, as well as the gap seals themselves. Okay, I went ahead and got everything deburred, got this all back together. I did decide to take my edge roller, my forming tool, and put just an ever so slight break. It's almost imperceptible. You might be able to see it there. I didn't want any chance of between the rivets, the skin kind of lifting up. It may not have, but small little break there I felt was appropriate. So I did do that. I've got this clecoed in. I'm gonna go ahead and put the AAPQ 43s along the top. Also, I did trim the support piece out of here. Like the manual says, it's very delicate after you do that, so handle with care, but I got that trimmed out. So yeah, I'm ready to go ahead and pop these rivets in. I'm going to cut this episode here. This will conclude part 2 of the left wing. Coming up in part 3, I'm going to be closing up the wing, putting the bottom skin on there, as well as I'm going to show how I do the pitot tube mount. I briefly mentioned it. I am using a Dynon pitot with AOA. I didn't want to have to cut the skin with the airfoil shape and find a way to build in some structure to mount that. Found a pretty slick way to use an existing inspection hole cover with some real small changes to kind of beef up the structure there. I'm going to be showing how I do that. Of course, closing up the skin, and then from there we're going to be working on fuel tanks. So stay tuned.